Babadabadam, babadabadam, babadabadabadabadabadabadam, pam 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 pam. Babadabadam, babadabadam, babadabadabadabadabadabadam, pam 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 pam.
Very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, at magandang gabi. Welcome to our Chronicles, and this is Rita Gadi. We have many things to cover as far as talking is concerned, especially if we have 1 hour to complete whatever it is we want to discuss. Most of the time, what concerns us at the moment is what we talk about. Most of the time, likewise, we go back in history to find out how it was before, how it is now, and what are we looking forward to in the future. Well, this day we have my good friend, a regular, so to speak, who has always been with us every time we discuss not just current events or political events, but many other episodes that affect our lives. This is a man who has stood in time, who claims to be, like most of us now talking at this particular stage, older than Methuselah. But he has been in the political scene for quite a while. He was governor, he was a member of parliament, he was in several political activities, and he stood firmly in a matter of being not just opposition to the current administration, whatever that may be during that time, but he has also always stood for many aspects out of the box. Very few individuals you would find that could have a mind as profound and as deep as his, and whatever is between his ears is really truly outstanding. I'm so proud to be his friend, and I'm so glad that every time we are able to invite him, he comes around. So here we are with our special guest, who's also a regular already, HOMOBONO ADAZA. Good day.
Good day, Rita. It's always a pleasure to be in your program.
Of course,
And,
but yes, one of these
you're,
days...
you're a better friend of mine than many I know.
Oh yes, but first, Bono, we have to offer our condolences and our sympathies to the family of Didi Sitangco, and also our prayers for her eternal rest. You will remember her, Bono, because she was the
Of
press
course.
officer of
Of course.
Mrs. Corazon Aquino.
She died when?
Uh,
When did she?
about the same day that Marcos also had his death anniversary, on the
Okay.
28th of September, just 2 days ago. Yeah, that's Didi Sitangco.
Condolence.
Yeah.
Condolence to her
Yes.
family.
So we offer our
And pray
sympathies
for the
to
repose of
yes
soul.
to her family and loved ones. There is synchronicity when it comes to things like this, because just about that time, 2 days ago, Facebook comes out usually with memories, and it comes out with some photographs that we have had in the past. I don't know where they're sourcing this from, but it just suddenly pops out. And so there was a picture there that came out 2 days ago, and that was a picture at the back of the Vatican, where we had the installation of Cardinal Vidal as cardinal, and we were at the piazza at the back of there's a big plaza at the back of the Vatican. And with me were, one of our top security officers, Pitong Heredia, and then I had also Veronica Veloso Yap, who was a writer and a reporter, and Ambassador Jaime Yambao, and then Didi Sitangco was also with us, and of course, Cardinal Vidal, and I was having a conversation with him. Little did I know when that picture came out, because there was somebody who gave a comment, Rita, could you please identify who are the people you were with? So I identified all of them. Well, sometime during that day that picture came out, that was the day also that Didi passed on. So anyway, Bono, what is important now is the title of our program is Trial and Error. You know, this is a phrase which we come across with. I think I remember this from elementary days, trial and error. You're experimenting on something, you keep on trying and trying until you get the right formula or whatever. I'm using this simply to describe many of the things we are faced with, politically, psychologically, mentally, and also by way of working with government or not working with government, whatever crisis we're going through, there seems to be always this phrase that comes around, trial and error. Di ba, Bono?
Yeah.
We,
For many, more trial and more error.
but that's exactly how it's supposed to be. You know, it's a process of parang experimenting. You experiment with various methods of doing something until you can come out with what is right or what is the most successful as far as the trial and error is concerned. Like we've just come across many of these events, for instance, like onion was very expensive, then we had to import onion, and then onion was already getting harvested. So you could see that there is some kind of a trial and error insofar as how we could be able to handle either the prices of onions or the supply of onions. So, but this is not the way governance should be. But that's exactly how it has been, not just currently, Bono, but over the past many administrations. It's always been susubukan nito, baka sakaling makalusot dito o baka sakaling itong makakagawa. It's a trial and error, and it should not be the case, especially since now that we are faced with inflation rates that are fluctuating up and down, and then it all boils down also to our supply of basic commodities, food especially, rice most seriously, and that's how it goes. So how do you think we can settle this without trial and error?
Well, Rita, it reminds me of the statement of one of the best Secretary of State of the United States of America, Henry Kissinger.
Oh, Kissinger. He's still alive, huh? Yeah. 100 years old or so.
Was a professor in Harvard, said, when a man gets to be a president and he doesn't know to be president the first day of office, he will never learn at the end of his term. You know, many of the presidents after Ferdinand, Adrian Marcos never learned from the first day after the last day of their term. But I'm watching BBM very closely, and what interested me, I hope it can be an exception to the Kissinger statement, because of his order on the removal of the barrier at the Bahamas
Yeah.
law.
Okay.
I think that's one of the best decisions so far since the beginning of his administration. It shows a lot of balls, as Speaker Laurel used to say, utak sa bayag at bayag sa utak. It's about time that we see President defy China.
Yeah.
You know, I remember very well, Digong, when he was president, he was saying that he was meeting with Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping said, you better not create trouble in the West Philippine Sea, because if you do, there will be war. And he was dominated by that statement. I'm glad that BBM does not have the same attitude as President Duterte, to be threatened by Xi Jinping and the 9-dash line.
Yeah.
It's about time. But, you know, some of the members of the cabinet should help the president. For instance, it's not enough to let the Coast Guard do this thing in the West Philippine Sea. Where's the Navy? Where's the Air Force? Where's all the troops in the country? You know, our planes should be flying over the West Philippine Sea. Our Navy ships should be moving there in the same manner that the ships of China move around there. They are invaders in our territories. China is behaving like a rogue state. It's about time somebody tells them that they cannot do that here. You know, I remember when drove out the Chinese vessels when they were invading there. And Widodo is not a lawyer. Widodo is a doctor. And he rode on one of the ships of Indonesia and went there.
Yeah.
And it's similar, no? Because it was covered very greatly by local and international media, the cutting of the barriers
Yes.
in the West Philippine
Yes.
Sea.
The
And
president,
according
yeah.
to the Chinese representative, they were amused. Okay, they should amuse, but they're shown that
Yeah.
these countries got balls,
Yeah.
and they better not treat us in the manner they've been treating other countries.
Exactly.
You know, China,
Yes,
in
that
little
that was,
words,
yeah, he received
Rita,
he
they
received
don't have to.
commendation for
Xi
this.
Jinping does not have to be hegemonic. With business, they can dominate the world. Yes, they have business everywhere. They have tall buildings in Russia, in the United States of America, and many other places. That's the way to do it.
Yeah,
We
and their
should learn
products,
from
yeah,
Sun Tzu
exactly.
in the art
Yeah.
of war.
And the
Xi
products
Jinping.
that they produce have infiltrated practically all the department stores throughout the world. But you're correct. President Marcos Jr. has received commendation as far as that specific act is concerned. But we also have to understand why China is behaving that way, because the South China Sea is the doorstep of China. It's like when you open your front door and get out into the street, that's exactly how it looks like for them. They have no other passageway except the South China Sea, and that's precisely why they're rather aggressive as far as this navigational highway is concerned. But you're correct, it really is about time that statements in foreign policy should also have the action of how that foreign policy should be executed. And while they're putting up these barriers and these buoys all over that particular area, it was a good move that the president ordered. But that is just one of those. Remember, you mentioned Indonesia. Vietnam, likewise, has sunk several Chinese ships, which we don't hear very much about. So I think that is the way it goes. Other than diplomacy, there also has to be very strong action. So it's not a trial and error thing. It's really just not even a trial, but some specific act that will have to prove that this is how we mean business, as you said.
Yeah, decisive action. That's the kind of action we should demonstrate to the Chinese and to others. We are no longer colonials. Our problem is we behave like colonials. We are prisoners of the mind. Let's free ourselves from this kind of imprisonment. By God, we are some of the most brilliant people in the world. I should not have attended conferences, Rita. And modesty aside, the Filipinos in these conferences shine over the others. And we get complimentary remarks from them.
Exactly.
We should behave in that manner instead of behaving like colonials. When we leave the country, there was a time when I attended an international parliamentary conference in Togo, and we were in the Netherlands, in Denmark. By God, my companions, some of the most brilliant people in the KBL. I was telling them, do not wear polo shirts, you wear coat and tie because you might be mistaken for smugglers. When we passed through the customs, my son and I were in coat and tie. We breezed through. My companions, some of the most brilliant members of the cabinet, were frisked. So I told them, Manong, as I told you, you see, never do that again, because the impression of some of the foreigners is we are domestic helpers and smugglers. By God, the Filipinos have demonstrated, not only in the schools in America, but in many other places, that we are the best in the world.
Well, it's really very sad that time was not too long ago, or quite some time back, when our overseas workers were actually professionals and skilled workers. But what happened in time was we have an outflow of, house managers, I would call them, not just domestic workers, but house managers, because they practically manage the household wherever they're located. So, but you're correct. When it comes to well, the ingenuity and the knowledge of Filipinos who are working overseas, you could really know that they're outstanding in many ways, not just in all of these disciplines, but even in the arts, for instance, in so many other activities. But let's get back to what you said, Bono, because that's exactly what we're trying to sort out. After the term of President Ferdinand Enralin Marcos, you mentioned that all the other administrations thereafter, until this time, have always had this experimenting with what can be done, what should be done. It's a back and forth thing. It's a trial and error. And that is why we seem to be not moving forward the way we should. But that's it. Certain fundamentals and foundations on specific activities like in agriculture, in health, in defense, even all of this, in security, should already be laid down, and we don't have to go through a trial and error thing anymore. So that's precisely why we have to take this out of this psychological barrier that we have.
You know, Rita, the problem of our leaders, after Ferdinand Idren Marcos, is no vision whatsoever. In the case of President Ferdinand Idren Marcos, he had a vision. He had a book, The New Society, where every step along the way is to be done. That's the way to be leader of a country. As a matter of fact, when you are president of a country on the first day of office, or before even the first day of office, when you talk to prospective members of the cabinet, you say, Justice, I want this to be done in the next 6 months. If you cannot do it, you better not accept the job, because you have to sign undated resignation. If you cannot perform, you've got to resign. In agriculture, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In national defense, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In every branch of government, there should be a vision, Rita, blueprint to be followed. If you don't have a blueprint, if you have not a vision, all you've got is television. My God, it's trial and error in television. It's trial and error for the many, like the skits of Dolphy and Panchito and the other Togo and Pogo. It's trial and error. It should not be like that. It should not be like that, as you said. They should have a vision and a blueprint every step of the way.
When you speak of a vision, it also is founded on a certain ideology. There is a belief, as you said, that the Filipino can be able to achieve exactly that level of excellence that has been set by himself, by the individual, and also collectively by the nation as a whole. But then again, what happens is, I don't know if you could say that politics corrupts all of this in a way, so that what ought to have been some kind of a landscape where you have an objective of where you're leading towards has been marred by personal interests, the personality cult, for instance.
Right.
So when we elect people into office, it is because they're popular or because they're able to use a lot of money to buy votes. But it is not really determining whether this person or the one that is running for public office has that particular vision, as you said. All of these cliches, alleviation of the poor. Ano bang ibig sabihin nun, alleviation of the poor? That has been already bastardized so many times in just about every election.
Yeah. Our problem really here is most of us Filipinos. I don't like the term Filipinos. It's taken from a colonizer, a colonizer king. But never mind, it's still the name of the country. Our problem is even our values are not conducive to having a vision. The Filipino majority, the Filipino, not everybody, in good number, not the majority, a good number of Filipinos, they're always thinking of themselves, self-interest.
Exactly.
When they make a decision, it's always me, mine. They're always in the mining business. This is mine, that is mine. And most of the politicians, if not overwhelmingly the most of the politicians, they are really prepared by self-interest. I've been running also for public office, but I always told them, I don't like to buy votes. Either like me or not. If I have to buy votes, they should pay me. Because I'll do service to them. Not me buying votes. For the love of mercy, why should I buy votes? If you take money to make me win, let's forget it. You might actually lose the election and let them suffer the consequences. That should be the case. Here dito, ang unang tanong, may pera ka ba? Tatakbo ka for governor, congressman.
Yeah.
May pera ka ba? Imagine that when I ran for governor, even my wife was telling me, do you have money? Yes, I have money. How much? 3,000. Are you crazy? So they make it crazy. You're fighting Marcos Elias and you are running. You have no organization. What's the matter with you? I thought you're intelligent. Yes, I'm one of the madmen of the world because it's the madmen, the impossible men of the world who build communities, who build countries, and who build the world. And I can cite a number of examples. Before in China, they said Chiang Kai-shek will stay there forever. No, Chiang Kai-shek was removed by 3 people, Mao Zedong, Zhou Enlai, and Chu Ti. In Russia also before, they were saying the Tsars cannot be removed. Most powerful in Europe, it took 3 people also, Stalin,
Lenin.
Trotsky, and Lenin.
Yeah.
Good God, there's no such thing as impossible. And the Filipino is capable of doing the impossible. We can do the impossible. As a matter of fact, when President Marcos, everybody was telling me when I was in the Batasang, what's the matter with you? You're suicidal. We cannot remove Marcos. We cannot defeat Marcos. I said, okay, that's what you think. I respect your views, but you also respect mine. And it's history. Same case with the Arab. Everybody was telling me, you're crazy, Bono, going with Abat and the others, asking Andy Reyes to remove his loyalty from Arab. The impossible we can do in this country. If we elect the right leaders, or we put the right leaders, and the leaders do their thing, and the Filipinos should follow them. Just like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. No, not Pied Piper of Hamelin, but not the lemmings. It is not the lemmings.
Yeah.
That's what you should be. It should be. And I look forward to it before I go to the sunset. While my knees are still strong, and I don't use a cane, I don't use like Franklin Delano Roosevelt on a wheelchair. I want to see the day when there will be dramatic changes in the country. Free education up to the university level, free hospitalization, free medicine, housing to be bought at the lower rate, no enclaves of the poor living like animals. My God, it's a sight not fit for human beings and not fit in a democracy and a Christian country like the Philippines. Why can't we do something?
Well, once upon a time, as you said, Bono, about 38 years ago, it was possible. There was a vision of this leader that we had then of a new society. Today, we have our junior president also mentioning that this is the new Philippines, Bagong Pilipinas. And working on that objective, that too is the vision that he has set now for the people. It may be something that we are not quite adjusted to because, as you said, over the past 38 years, we've had nothing but trial and error of so many attempts of governance. Running a country and running a government are 2 different things, And qualification-wise, you don't really need a degree or you don't need a cum laude, etc., because even our constitution has very limited or very scarce qualifications listed there to be able to run for the presidency and even for other government positions for that matter. But then again, as you said, being optimistic, there will be, coming from 100 million Filipinos, there will still be a few of those men who would be able to stand on principles rather than on just their popularity or their face value and so forth. Charisma used to have a very important what do you call this, a very important concern as far as relationship between the leader and the people. But nowadays, that's no longer of any value. You know, if we have to adulterate that word cara so alma, the face of your soul, and people would gravitate towards a person that they feel is has the intention to really help them. I don't know why they call it traditional politicians, Bono. But our politicians then did not have time, what do you call this? They did not have periods, limited periods of service. I mean, they could be there forever until they drop dead. And yet the
Yes,
people
true.
love them, and they're the ones that really serve the people. You know, the term traditional politician, sinasabing traditional politician becomes a derogatory phrase whenever you refer to the old politicians. But there you could see the difference. Prior to 38 years ago, that was what was important. The people who entered into politics, Bono, were like you, to serve, to serve the people, to be one with them. And you know, as important as charisma was, that too was the destiny of the leader, destined by the events and also chosen by the people to be their leaders. So, pero wala na yun. We don't have that anymore. Nowadays, it's, as you said, it's a matter of being able to pay for propaganda and pay for the advertisements to make you look good. Wala na yung quality of character that is most important. Charisma
Rita, I
was.
want to cite
Yes.
I want to cite two specific examples
Okay.
of traditional politicians, even long before our time.
Uh-huh.
I want to be specific because it's my personal experience. My father graduated only grade 7. Grade 7 in the public school in Catarman, Misamis Oriental before. Now Camiguin. Okay. Graduated grade 7. He became a teacher after graduating grade 7. He became a sanitary inspector. He became a chief of police. He became vice mayor, and he was mayor for about 20 years. And legendary, saying, as a matter of fact, one of the ideals that he has given me, and my 3 brothers are dead, also lawyers. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, everything is lost.
Exactly.
Because every time I make a decision, when I was in public office, I always remember what my father told me. I've been offered bribes, my God, 50 million, 100 million, not really bribes, money to make me happy because I don't have to do anything in order that I receive the money. But when I remember my father, it's a no, no, no. It's a no, no, no. And another politician, traditional, is Uloy Roa Misamis Oriental. He did not finish elementary school. He did not finish. He became city mayor. He became governor. He became congressman because he was loved by the people there. Though I had to fight him because my father-in-law was the incumbent when he was running for the first time. But he demonstrated that kind of concern for the people. And that's what's important.
Exactly. And that is why I keep going back to that particular period in our history, in our political history. Pag sinasabi nga na, you know, now it is limited. You can only run, I think, 2 or 3 times, and then afterwards, tapos na, and then you go back, look for another position, and so forth. Or it will be your wife, your mistress, your daughter, your son, who will take over that position. There is not that continuity that the people have already chosen you. That was what it was before. You know, when we're talking like this, Mono, it seems very strange for for today, because so much has really been revolutionized in a way that is so different now than it was then. You mentioned 2 outstanding politicians, but that was how it was. You did not have to have that college degree or that specialization in a certain discipline. Pag mahal ka ng tao, talagang andyan ka every election, ikaw din na iboboto. That was then. And that is where, as we said, we do not have to go through a trial and error when it comes to how to administer government, how to run a city, how to run a town, and then a province, and then eventually you have running a country for that matter. The way we have the three branches of government now covering the entire spectrum of the political dimension. But that is exactly what we're trying to find out now, if it is still possible that people will stand on character para hindi na yung experimenting on whether this will work now or maybe we can change it, or this will just be for the benefit of a few, for the benefit of a family, but this is not for the benefit of all of the people. Doon na nga nagsisimula, Bono. It starts, as you said, in that smallest unit, from the village to the town, to the city, to the province, and then to the nation as a whole. But we have to start somewhere. You mentioned how these politicians were first mayors of the respective towns, and then they became governors, and eventually some of them even branched off to either in Congress or in the Senate, a higher position on the national level. But that was it. There was something in them, in their character, that really meant that they were in politics, police, for the people, exactly. We don't find that nowadays. Nowadays, it's
no longer, Rita, no longer, because this I could say, when I ran for Congress and I won the election but lost the proclamation. My opponent was saying, because he has no audiences. The audiences were with me all the time. Okay, ang tao kang Bono, pero ang boto kang Pedro. And that's the name of the game now. But you can be the most popular, the most intelligent, the most brilliant, the one who paints a vision with a blueprint, but you lose the election because you haven't got money.
Okay, we have the junior president now. His father initiated, when he declared martial law, the proclamation of martial law is to build a new society. Now we have the son who says that now we have to start with the unity of everyone so that we can come up with a new Philippines, bagong Pilipinas. So there is an ideological base and a vision, as a matter of fact. The first act that was pretty strong, as you said, and really convincing as far as an act of governance is concerned, is what happened in the South China Sea. But that is out there in that long navigational highway. Back home, there are many things that will have to be attended to. And this is where, as we said, tama na yung trial and error. You will import, you will not import, you will harvest, you will stock this, you will go after the illegal smugglers. I mean, of course, smugglers are illegal. You will go after those who are, those who are importing but are hoarding and so forth. So parang it's a hemming and hawing and trying to find out which is going to work. It's like experimenting. We had this for 38 years. So now that we have a bagong Pilipinas, we have an assertion of first of our character as a nation. We've shown it according to the president here in the South China Sea. We have to show it now internally. Well, just recently, for instance, I just learned from one of our friends who has been following our relationship with China. We had this outstanding gains that we made there in China with the exhibits that we had, and of course with the other exports that we have already brought about in that particular fair. So let's work on that, so that we can see that this bagong Pilipinas is exactly as the president has declared it should be.
Yeah, Rita, yeah. Okay, bagong Filipino. I hope it's not like what President Duterte said before, pagbabago. In our place, it's not pagbabago, pagbabago.
Oh my goodness.
It's like OB. During the war, when you cannot eat anything, you get bago, you get stomach problems. but you have to eat bago anyway. I hope that itong bagong Filipino, it starts with the cutting of the barrier in the West Philippine Sea and translate it into action here on the local level. You know, I don't like to be presumptuous, Rita, but in my many meetings of the President Marcos, no? Cardinal Ibrahim Marcos, FM, I was telling him one day, you know, Mr. President, martial law is a mistake. He was telling me, why do you say it's a mistake? Because martial law under the Constitution is designed only to do certain things, quell rebellion. You know what you should have done? Declare a revolutionary government. Why? What's so different? In a revolutionary government, the government is the law and the leader is the lawgiver. You can change the whole country, the whole framework. You can change everything with the revolutionary government. Cory Aquino attempted to have a revolutionary government, but it's just like a plaything. The guys who were there didn't know what was it all about. I am not suggesting, of course, that there is euphemism that I use for revolutionary government, constitutional transition government.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to discuss that with the leaders of the country, why it's necessary to have a constitutional transition government, because within the current framework, you are hamstrung by a constitution that is as lengthy as a code. Yeah, the constitution is still there. It's as lengthy as a code. And that is prohibited in the constitution making process. There are many limitations that a leader cannot do. He's hamstrung by the Senate. He's hamstrung by Congress. It's good that he dominates the lower house. But if he does not dominate the Senate, he'll have a problem. If he does not have charisma enough to be able to convince the Supreme Court, he will have a problem. If he does not have charisma to convince the governors and the city mayors, he has a problem. But in the constitutional transition government, it's the others who will have problems. The country will move forward. The Philippines will be an example of a democratic system better than the United States of America and the others were considered democratic. Because here, we can really build a democratic country, but there should be a transition period. I'm coming out with a book. I hope I'll get money. I love money.
for the
November,
publication, yeah.
I'll come out with a book which is entitled, Rita, New Horizon. New Horizon, a manual to build the country. I submit my proposal to the leaders and to the people and test. I can defend it anywhere in the world in the same manner that President Ferdinand Edralin Marcos defended his new society, even in the United States of America, in the American Congress, and in the press club of the United States of America. You know, I watched his speeches then, and even now, I still go over the YouTube watching the speeches to refresh my memory, because I may have committed some mistakes. So we are not perfect. Though my memory, like my father, is photographic, but sometimes the photograph is a little hazy already with the passing of the years.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I will submit that book with a lot of modesty or immodesty, whichever.
But that's how it begins. Words, actually. That is where it all begins. And that's precisely why whenever we listen to Marcos Jr., whenever he expresses himself in his words, we look forward to that expressions that he has put not just in policy statements, but also the meaning of all of this when it comes to the relevance to our everyday lives. This bagong Pilipinas that is talking about, for instance, is something that could be able to be part of that constitutional transition that you're talking about. We do need to have that change from what we are now, an inherited Western kind of democracy, to something which is just, which is fitted for our culture and for our geographical location. As you said, what this action taken in the South China Sea is really geopolitics, as it should be. You know, that is geography and politics combined together, asserting our rights over this navigational highway, but bringing it back home now, here to us. We need the strength and the power of a leader that can be able to have that revolutionary fervor of transitioning from Western type of democracy to Filipino type of democracy without the, out of the all of this liberties of, freedom of speech, freedom of that, etc., which are over abused. There should be the freedom of ourselves now to be able to chart our own destiny. We haven't done this as a people, and leaders such as President Marcos Jr. is now beginning to assert how important it is that we stand on our own the way it should be. But as I've said, no longer this trial and error in governance. What do we do with agriculture? What do we do with health? What do we do with this? We've done it before. It didn't work. What will we do again so that to change it? So it's just a matter of too much experimenting. We have problems now, corruption and so forth. You have the PhilHealth, which should really encompass already every Filipino as far as health insurance is concerned. But again, it is now attacked by this Medusa kind of scamming that you have vital information of people being taken over, and then whoever did this is even asking for a ransom, for them to be able to release whatever data they have stolen. But be that as it may, Bono, that's where constitutional change and transition should also incorporate the major change of a new constitution that could really cut down, Bono, and simplify not just the matter of governance, but simplify a lot of things that are already so extraneous. Ang dami-daming opisina, ang dami-daming opisyal doon sa mga opisina na yon. When you could really just cut down and streamline, it would save money for the government, and at the same time, it could simplify governance. Bureaucratic haywire and all of this could also be resolved as far as that's concerned. Pero Bono, para tayong watching at the margins, you're writing, you have this book that's coming out. I've been talking, but that's just about it. We have to reach the people. We have to reach the other people who would want to run for public office.
Rita, no. The current president can learn from Carlos Polistico Garcia when he said in Cebuano,
Filipino first.
Ang sulti, di mao ipabuhaton. Ang buhat, mao ipasultihon. Deedless in words and wordless in deeds. That's the quality of a leader that should be seen in this country. I remember Caloy Garcia, the Balak Beauty. When a certain James, the correspondent of the Time magazine, libeled the country. You know what Garcia said? Don't allow him to enter the country. I don't care if he comes on time. He should respect this country. No, should not be allowed to enter. I like presidents who know what to do when presented with a certain situation because it's already in his mind. For instance, what to do with the justice system. Pakpak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The economy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Banco Central, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, for instance, why did this Congress of the Philippine House and the Senate pass AMLA? That's one of the crazy law. We are asking for investments, but we are preventing the entry of money here on the theory that some of this money may have been earned through illegal means and will be used for illegal purposes. Money has no morals. Beginning, the morals of money is only in spending, how you spend it. Because of AMLA, so many billions of dollars could not enter the Philippines through legal means, meaning bringing it here for investments. because it reaches the AMLC. And the AMLC, during the previous administration, has earned some degree of notoriety in the way
That's the
how
anti-money
that should be.
laundering. Yeah.
Yeah, no money laundering. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
For instance, if you win 5 billion in Las Vegas, you would say you cannot bring the money here simply because you won it in gambling. It's money laundering if it is designed for rebellion, for coup d'etat, for terrorism, for human rights violations. That's simple. All you need to do is every time a remittance is made, tax 10%, and then they all sign affidavit. If it's used for rebellion, coup d'etat, and other purposes, confiscation, including the people who brought the money here.
That's one aspect of it all, Bono. That's only one. There are so many other concerns that will also have to be reviewed now. Ang dami natin baga, there's so many laws that have been passed. This anti-money laundering was part of the IMF, World Bank, and other foreign financial institutions that demanded that we should have something like that. So it's like just we're patterning it because they say so. As again, I go back to, it has to be something which is coming from us. This is not just something that we copy from other countries or that are imposed on us because they're doing it themselves. Or, so many of these policies are actually coming in, not indigenous. It's not really part of our culture. One example, for instance, Mono, land reform. Ang ganda pakinggan, you have it in so many other countries where they have land reform, land to the landless. But 7 hectares for every farmer, it's maybe enough to feed his family and his progeny. But afterwards, what happens to the rest of the country that will also be dependent on the products of land, So now you're having a review of this because even though nagbigay na ng emancipation si President Junior, it still will need a lot of input in agriculture. So that's what we mean. So many of our laws will have to be reviewed, amended, rescinded, and changed. The local government code, for instance, Mono, is another law that will now need a lot of changes, especially now that we're going to have barangay elections. This was written a long time ago by former Senator, not former, but the late Senator Aquilino Pimentel, So, doon pa lang makikita na trial and error na naman. Is it working the way it should? Is the police force still under the mayors? Should they be under the mayors? So here you have problems also with security as far as the police, ang daming abuses na sa police department. So that's also part of the local government code, which is under the DILG, Department of Interior and Local Government. So you could see that all of this will really need major changes now because we've had this trial and error over the past close to 4 decades. And so this major changes, yung constitutional transition, perhaps we could have that, in phases as early as yesterday, for instance, Mono.
Rita, the answer really to many of our problems is leadership. It's leadership. Because if you have a leader who does not know what to do, trial and error, walang mangyari sa bansa. Maski maraming slogans diyan, pagbabago, etc., walang mangyayari if the leader is not determined to translate words into action. And we need definite blueprint. For instance, our Mindanaoan mayor of Davao, who became president, he said, revolutionary government, walang nangyari. Federal system, walang nangyari. Parliamentary system, walang nangyari. Control drugs in 6 months, walang nangyari. Control graft and corruption in 6 months, walang nangyari. Rice at 20 pesos, walang nangyari. Hindi pwede yung ganon. If you paint a picture to the country, see to it that you produce the desired results. It's not difficult to put up a federal parliamentary system. The problem with our presidents is they're always afraid of people of ideas. They are afraid, I know that. They're afraid. The only one who's not afraid of people of ideas was Ferdinand Iderlin Marcos. I've had long conversations with him, and he was not afraid. You know, he wants to talk. He wants to talk with opposition. What do you have in mind? Why don't you join me? You know, that's the kind of president we should have. Okay, there have been a lot of complaints against Ferdinand Marcos. He is also at fault to a certain degree. But many of the people who are at fault is not really principally Marcos. His fault probably is not to tell these people to do right. Because the ones who did the objections on human rights violation, it's not Ferdinand Marcos. It's somebody else. And the other activities here, it's done by somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, let's have a revival of leaders who know what to do and leaders who are determined to do it. You know, I'm almost tempted to consider running in 2025.
25, yeah.
Yeah, 2025.
Yeah.
I'm seriously considering the idea of running, and so that the people will hear me, hear the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
The people are afraid to say the right things. Takot. Sinasabihan pa ako, piligro ka dyan, ha? Marami na nabaril dyan. Leadership is risk. You have to risk. If you don't risk, you have no business being a leader. Yes.
Very important words, Mono. Well, we're starting now with the choice of leaders coming this election for the barangay, which is the basic political unit, which has been abused in so many ways. It has not really come up with the ideal that we have as far as the barangay is concerned. You know, when that was instituted, again, this was done under President Ferdinand Edralin Marcos, believing that the foundation of our pyramidal political pyramid is in the baseline, which is the barangay, but it has not functioned in that manner, or it has been abused as far as a service to the people is concerned. But as you said, let us hope that choices will be done, you know, with integrity. But this is a far cry. I don't know where I'm coming from when that is concerned. This is a hope, this is a wish, this is a prayer that we do not go into the trial and error again of putting people into office in that particular political unit. But there is always this optimism that maybe changes could be undertaken. But here we are, Bono. And as you said, if you're running in 2025, I'll be campaigning for you. But prior to that, I think we should have already a new constitution by that time, so that all of these extraneous items in the present constitution could be removed, and we could just have a simplified constitution, which we could perhaps even memorize in such a way with a language that is perhaps even poetic, so that we can really be proud reciting it in a way. So
my book, Rita, will have a draft of a constitution.
Yes.
New Horizon, as an appendix, is the draft of a new constitution.
Yeah, so we should sit down on this. Maybe one session. You know, Bono, we've been talked about this for years. We've been talking about it since what? Since I have been talking about it since 1969, even, you know? So that's a long, long way past. And it could just really spill out of our mouths as though we've already written it, actually. So we'll work on it, Bono. So one of these days, we'll sit down.
I'm glad I'm not tired, no? Providence has provided me with enough patience, because I've been writing on this thing since 1955.
Oh, my goodness.
1955. Parliamentary, federal, revolutionary government. but I never tire.
Yeah.
I'm
You shouldn't.
I'm thanking the divine providence. And that's
Exactly.
why I keep on quoting my favorite my favorite friends on the level of the heart of the mind in every occasion that I have. George Bernard Shaw and Robert Kennedy.
Yes.
People see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not.
Why not? Exactly. If you can think it, you can make it. I go back to Walt Disney. That's also what he said. You can dream it, you can actually make it. Anyway, Bono, let's go over some of those who joined us, at least initially. Elizabeth Magay Ayam Roasa, you're watching. Thank you very much. Virgilio Villanueva, 11th, like 11 minutes late playback time. Good afternoon, Ma'am Rita and Sir Bodo Adaza. Virgilio Villanueva. Paul Vincent Nag Lopez, ma'am, anong pagsubok at kamalian na paano yon? Sa darating na halalan 2025, ang partito KDP ay may mataas ang 100. Oh, yes. Let us start working on that. The KDP, Katipunan ng Demokratiko Pilipino, in memory of our dear Sir Butch Valdez, of course. We have all the names here. Yes, pardon.
But Butch is dead.
Yes, he's dead already.
My
Bono,
God.
you didn't know? It's going to be a year
didn't know.
already. December last
didn't
year.
know.
Yes, yes. The late Butch Valdez. Well, we still have his partido, his Katipunan ng Demokratiko Pilipino. We still have Save the Nation movement. I am here in his studio, and that is exactly why we're continuing with this movement, Bono. Anyway, so Andres Teves also joined us. If only Filipinos of the blood and guts of General Patton, oh my goodness, the diplomacy of General Eisenhower, and the political savvy of President Franklin Roosevelt, the wisdom of George Marshall, a strong Philippines. Okay, but we can also cite a number of Filipinos who are also as strong and as savvy as these people. Jinky Bill, good evening po, and watching from Germany. Edwin Banan, I believe that good governance depends on the inner character of one person holding any position in government. Yes, character indeed, as Mona said. Vixon's vlog, hello po, hello din to you. Death Vex, gandang hapon po. Gabalfin, as a Filipino citizen, what can we do? What we can do is to be disciplined and follow the rules of unity and help our government's vision. Yes. Good afternoon po, Ma'am Rita, watching from JP? What? Japan. Oh, watching from Japan. Oh. April Agkawili, good evening po, Madam Rita and Sir HOMOBONO ADAZA, and several others, Bono, who have joined us initially. And I'm sure that we have other concerns to talk about at some other meeting. But for now, I'd like to thank you, HOMOBONO ADAZA, my good friend, for having joined us today.
Thank you also for inviting me, and God bless you, the country, and everyone in this country.
Thank you, Bono. And to everyone who joined us, together with all of those all over the world, as I've said, whatever your time zone is and wherever you're located, God bless our country and God bless each one of you. Thank you for having joined us. This has been your Chronicles, and this is Rita Gadi.
Bum 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 ba da ba dum bum 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 ba da ba dum bum 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 ba da ba dum